See, immediately the difference in, and they're not reacting to that. So again, if I go here,
Huge change.
right? Versus if I go here. See how they stabilize? And I'm just doing it with one hand. So now if I do what I just did with Carolyn, if I say, please stand up. Sit down. Here, I should do it this way. Let's see if this goes. So if I say stand up, and then sit down. Again, the amount of momentum. But now if I do it with rotation and I say please stand up. And then come down again.
So rotation is, like, it doesn't look like rotation, that's why I keep. You are rotating a little bit, okay. It's not.
If I touch like this, I'm touching his neck. If I touch with rotation, see already he's like, and two, like especially the kids, even though he's 16, he's been so used to being worked with his mother. He acts like a little puppy dog. You know what I mean? But if I just touch him, it's just, it doesn't go through the system. Pure touch is fine, and I can sit there and I can make him feel good. But he's not going to, his system's not going to learn. But rotation is function. So since everything I do needs rotation and I touch with rotation, I automatically improve the function. It's just mathematical. That's 1 + 1 and 1 = 3 versus. So again, if I touch with rotation, but if I don't touch with rotation, do you see what I mean? It's not functional. All he's gone is sit, stand. But if I touch with rotation, you know what I mean? Now he can come and I can bring him out and do whatever. He can go into the next. He's not stopping and starting a movement. He'll be a little bit of a pain because he's 16 and he's my son. But again, they're see, now he should be able to stand up, but now he's being coordinated.
He's like,
Oh, you want me to stand up? Oh.
I want you to leave the area. Please come over here. I'm here. I'm touching him. He thinks he's, but again, if I just, see, it's just, now this guy, he's so interesting. Now, he's the one you want to go home with. I'm sure he's already driving Sun City nuts. He likes to go out and for a good time, he runs backwards. So you have to tell the story when we're all hanging about the person saying, you know, you're running backwards. Like he wasn't supposed to figure it out. So again, if I'm trying to get in behind him, you know what I mean, and move him, versus if I was here and I come in, see, I can just and slide through him. I can come around, not go in his pocket, it's meant to go in his belly. And here. Now this would just be a quicker way. So and a child too, if I can say, look at me.
try that again.
Okay, act like you want to look at me. And I can say, look at me. See, you can see where I'd have to work on the one side versus the other, just from that little bit. But he's still trying to think too much into this. But that's fine. But I have to go with that. But see, this is where, see, that his nose isn't across the midline on this side.
Just,
The eyes are going, but he's not.
he's not twisting at all. Or
Well, it's not that he's not twisting. Now, in this case, it's subtle. It's more his nose doesn't want to cross the midline. See, most people think midline is here, and I take my arm and I go over it. You and I can do this, a kid can't. That's not crossing midline. No child can do this. A child, the chest has to cross midline, and that's what brings my arm in. Okay? It was the same thing with the nose. So you'll be learning, not this time, but you'll get it more and more. We're actually going to be spending probably a good 4 to 5 days on it. Midline here, here, back of elbows, back of heels, knees, sternum, your pubic bone, right? So all these different areas. So now this would have to be, is he not coming over here? Now see, the shoulder has a hard time coming back, as well as, so do I need to work a little bit here? And then see already the difference where he can come with that? But now his nose still doesn't want to cross midline. Now I'm not going to go up to him necessarily, touch the nose. This is where, Diane would come in, let's say, I'd say, I got a kid that needs you. And where she can go and see already, see what just his vision is going to help me. And this is where Diane makes me look good. So just from that little bit of eye work already, look at what I can do with it. You know what I mean? So, but you see how I'm working, that still he's a giant wave machine. Is that starting to, can you see the movement going through him? Versus how pretty he looks and how his glasses fit his nose. I mean, instead of topically. Right here, he stopped. So right here, see? Fluid, whatever you want to call it, right here, he just stops. So this is where, again, there's a glitch in the system that I would have to now approach, saying that backwards, of how I'm going to get, but see here, what I was talking about with the pubic bone, now that doesn't want to cross midline. Here, the chest, yes. See the difference? But here, through the hip, the pelvis, whatever you want to call it, he's not crossing the line. Then, see, if I have a fused neck, right? See alone what that's going to do to the shoulders are going to come forward or the elbows back. Very similar when kids have trachs. So, do they go like this, or it's postural, or it's because they're trying to avoid that certain movement that's hitting? I'm thinking more and more from working with more and more trachs that I do, that because of the fused necks, he might have swallow issues. And because of that, he's actually hanging the esophagus, so the breathing and the swallowing is easier. You know what I mean? So if I'm here, but if I have a fused, see the difference? Like everybody pretends C1 through C4 doesn't move. So if you come back here, do you see already my talking, everything changes in my breathing from that neck. So I'm thinking they're like this. See, now bring the elbows out. See how the esophagus almost hangs a little bit? And where the swallow function, the breathing function is easier. So if that's the case, then can we work on here? Oh, I can swallow back here and it's not as threatening to my system. Because if a child chooses breathing or swallowing, they'll pick the breathing. And then if they breathe and swallow better, then guess what? The arms can come down. Because now I don't have that conversation. Again, now she's had the palate. Even though she's been surgically changed, what happens with the palate is the breath. So people think it's just a diaphragm lung-based effect. I believe it's a palate diaphragm-based system. So now just imagine, visualize the surgery that was done, and so the palate doesn't flow. And so is she more like this to get more lung fill? That's where my brain kind of looks at all of that. But nobody's going to say she doesn't breathe well because of palate.
Right.
You know, or very few are going to have that kind of awareness. They're just going to say, oh, it's low tone and this and that, and the wolf, but they're just grasping for straws. What I used to do, like I'm going to take you out people watching, like I said, if you guys are up to it. But what I used to do is I can actually go like this. Like I have one client, 77-degree scoliosis, car surgery. Now, and I can't even go into the cranial damage and stuff. But when I was like this, I was like, I can't breathe. So the first thing I did with him is just go after the breathing. And then finally when he was like, oh, and then, so he went from a 77 to a 59. Am I going to get him straight? Whatever. No, he's vegetative. He's 22. I've got all that. But since I've been working with him the past 5 years, he's never had a day in the hospital. He's never had, so what's that worth to that family.
Right.
But most people would say, Michelle, you're doing the same thing every day with him.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I just, who am I to decide who doesn't get a lesson, as far as that's concerned? Look at that. What? Do you see where, but do you see how he went same on that? So when I did that left shoulder up, now he's trying to counter it because he's learned from the experience, but still, same where he's countering with that. So now if I come here, you see the difference in the... So now this is the most I can bring his knee in. But that being said, you probably can look at him, this leg's already getting longer than the other just because of the muscle changes. But again, if I just do that, you know, he's just gonna go, and people say it's habitual. If I only worked with his reflex patterning and not within function, I'm not giving the most that his system can get out of it. So if I go like this and go, oh yes, he has a startle reflex, let's say. Now again, he's already integrated, so he's changing, but I can't sit there and go, okay, Bruce, you need to calm down. You need to have your, you know, and all this sort of stuff. Or I don't need to go into the shoulder all the time like this. But if I believe, though, if I work, say, let's say this is his hand now, and coming in between his elbow, see, now I'm working with his vestibular, even though I'm not touching the vestibular. It's hand and elbow, but my intent is how that spine hangs off of his shoulder girdle. So see what I just did there? So now if I came here, see the difference now? And now he counters. So I get it, maybe not everything he's going to do is with rotation, but that's where I would do something functional on his vestibular and then see how it integrates to see if we can, quote, change the startle. Because the startle reflex is valid. I don't want to get rid of it. If I push him over, I want him to startle. You know what I mean? Or if there's suddenly fire in here, I want him to start. That's the whole point of why we have reflex patternings. But for me to just do this and say, oh yeah, you know, this is where I need to work on. Well, hello, you know. So if I'm just here and just do a little bit of that, and now, you know, see where he's at with it. Weevils wobble, but they don't fall down. But look at already now what he can do with his system. Because I'm letting but look at the wrist though. That's where I would have to work. You see how the wrist to hand? But he's a fiddler, and so now you're seeing the music come through.
What do you see his hand doing?
See how straight it is? It's not, he's not rotating his wrist, so he's not looking to protect himself. But he's so used to this kind of movement patterning. I'm just guessing, but again, I play with him all the time, so I can see. So like if I went here, okay, so now I'll put this hand here. So if I go over here, see the difference in his response from the hand to the wrist? See how now the foot goes down, trying to look for the floor, versus before he was kind of going, you know, I mean, there's just subtle things. You probably see more when you go back to the camera. And this is where the slow-mo is cool. But again, if I just do that, I mean, I know I'm saying it all the time. Are you seeing the physics behind it? Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different with Heather doing. I'm going to do the reverse. Or do you want me to do it the way? Okay. So I'm down here, and this is where you'll see me with the kids. I hate to say it. All I keep saying is like listening to a with the tumblers, you know how people used to sit there and go like that? Especially when I'm around the head, you will see my head not looking here. I don't ever look at my hands. That's why I like the video at first. It's like, oh, cool, I didn't realize I did that. But if I'm working on really fine-tuning something, first of all, I have a direct line of shot. I'm right here. But look at my vestibular. Do you see how my elbows, everything, my knees are against this table? I'm not here trying to get Heather. Do you feel a difference? Now, on top of that, I'm going to tighten my abs. Do you feel a difference? You don't even want me. But if I'm here, and I think this is why I really, I think I'm getting so big, because honestly, my body is getting more like a big baby. I'm just so used to moving differently that I don't have many stresses on my system, which I don't think is necessarily a good thing. So see how that she's like a giant wave machine right now. Now, Heather Joy gets it and she's responding. There are also quite a bit of clients that you might have. They think they're doing this and doing you a favor by helping you out. They have no idea what that wave is supposed to be. So now what I'm going to have Heather Joy briefly do is I want you to cross your eyes. See the difference? See how she's not capable of responding with that wave just from her eyes being crossed. So now leave your eyes alone. And see the difference on how, see I can just, see the quickness of this and the rate of acceleration in her body? So again, cross your eyes. Sorry. See, I don't have the same acceleration. I don't have the same synchronized patterns. It's much more difficult for her. Let the eyes alone, I won't do that anymore.
You wouldn't use the crossing eyes, you're just showing that, you wouldn't use
I'm
that.
just showing you that, but a lot of kids, that's the first thing I see all the time, especially on the hypotonic board. I'm like, they don't have binocular vision. What does that mean? Their eyes aren't working together. What does that mean? Well, how do you expect them to walk down the hallway when they're like this? So I can pull my eyes out. So if I'm like this, right? Well, who am I going after? The Joanne here or the Joanne here? So my eyes are pulled out. So even that, for me to stand up, I mean, that's, do you know what I mean? That sort of takes a different kind of effort. I shouldn't have to think about just wanting to hug my mother. But for me to bring my eyes back in now and then I can go like this, or I can go down and crawl, I mean, then I have options. But if my eyes aren't binocular, I mean, now my vestibular system has left my body and I have to find an exterior vestibular system.
Wow.
Does that make more sense? Okay. So if I have an internal vestibular system, then I know how to respond to any stimuli. So if he wants to joke with me, I can decide even from here, I can smack him in the head and know where he's at. You know what I mean? But again, I do karate. I'm used to all of this being more my, even if I'm not looking at it. So I know at least if I do this, I'm going to probably hit something, but at least prevent something from hitting me. And so, do you know what I mean? Nice try.
No scars.
Not Friday yet.
No, but I'm just saying, I practice with those moves. So I have a higher, I don't expect you to do all of this. I don't expect you to be me today. However, I'm teaching you to be me. And I'm giving you the privilege to be me and do me with what you know and whatever. I don't know MNRI and I don't know how to be an OT and I don't know how to be a vision specialist. I'm learning every day. I'm learning just here teaching you guys. I've never done this before. So, well, I have, but I haven't. You know, I've never done it at this level. But you have to be open for all of that and allow it to happen. But hopefully the whole thing I'm showing you, though, is really how to just play with that movement in someone's system. Now, she went too far back. And this is where I might come here or I might come here. Now, she's not going to fall down. And then if I bring her through the pelvis, then see, there we go, more stability. But if a child is never, let's say, eaten by mouth, or has done everything by bottle or NG tube or G tube, they are not used to this movement vocabulary of coming up over the pubic bone, because all of that is going from nursing, sucking on a breast, to bringing the food to our mouths. We do this when we eat. We don't sit here like this. So the swallow function here is different than the swallow function here. The breathing function here with the swallow is different than here. So to expect a kid to suddenly go into feeding therapy, life if I've done years, you know, I have to have appreciation to where their vestibular is and how they respond to movement. And one of the response to movement is just even tongue swallow. So. But down here, if I just add that little bit to the pelvis, and now she's acting like the ball. She's self-correcting and coming around. But when I feel a self-correction, then I know I've tapped into their system, and then they're already now making mathematical calculations. Excuse me. But I don't always want someone to respond, because sometimes I'll do this and they'll go, oh, and oh, you know, and they'll get into it. And it's like, okay, like how do I back this one off? And it's like, okay, if you just, I'm not helping. Or I've had one woman, she's lying on her side, like, I'm trying to explain to her, don't help me. I'm not helping. So I took my hands away, and she's sitting there like this. No, not at all. And she still didn't get it. But I mean, but that's where movement and neurological, she thinks she's just totally relaxed. But this is people on a cell phone. And they've relayed, and now certain people are going to cell phone mode where they don't know how to move without it. And that's where the dangers are coming in. It's not that cell phones are bad or apps are bad or Facebook is bad. Is knowing when can I actually eat my food without, it's not so much Facebook, but without these kind of eye movements and all of that, which are very short on the vestibular. Huh? So even from here, what she just saw, same thing. Or if I say, come here, see, she does not want to. You need to relax. You need to come on. I'm just trying to bring your elbow down. Whoa.
Great, too bad my shoulder.
Gordon, can you give me that blue ball, please?
No.
It's back in.
This one, right?
Blue ball.
The other blue one.
Yesterday. Oh, dear God. So now, why can't I do this? Now, this is still hard for her because I have two hands on her elbow. So this is where I'll come in now. So this is where more I'd have to guide her vestibular to do what I want her to do. What I like about the balls is, see, and she's still not ready for that, is how the elbow would tilt back and forth. There. But if you can't get the elbow to the wrist to do that, you aren't doing it with the pubic bone. Do you know what I mean? There's no way a baby can know, or a child, how to transfer right here if they don't know how to transfer right here. This is where you'll see either elbow before the shoulder or elbow behind the shoulder. So they might sit up like this, and they're used to, again, with a really high momentum, center of gravity, all those buzzwords that you want to hear versus it being down here. Hey, a low-tone kiddo might look like this. That doesn't mean they have a center of gravity here. So that whole use of center of gravity, my center of gravity has to be in my hands just as much as it has to be through my pelvis and my lower back. So yes, I can look at all my extremities if I was a ballerina and say, oh, this is probably that midpoint or your center of balance. Not necessarily. Nobody wants to lift a heavy ballerina. You'll see it in yoga. You'll see it in all different aspects. You might look like you're doing the pose you're supposed to do, but if you're bearing all your weight on your hands in downward dog versus back on your feet or up through your spine, like someone's got a nice string up your spine, you can have 15 different people doing the same pose, 15 people doing the center punch or an ATM. You're going to see all these kind of mechanisms, because also in those kind of situations, people are trying to do it correctly versus experiencing the movement. So now she does much better with using that ball side to side. Notice I'm not here. See the difference? Look at the momentum with her head. But I can say I've worked with her vestibular and your eye hand and crossing midline all day long, but look at what she's doing with it. But if I go here, see the difference? It's a lot like tuning a piano. That's it. So now if I were to take this away, let's see. Now see, that didn't, but here, but now here. See the difference of her starting to come down to her elbow? See here? But again, if I just, I'm gonna get more out of her this way.